All right, Lavinia, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in your event today. I listened to the early part of the event where you started out framing the discussion. And I think you laid out the reality of the status of cognitive decline and its care very well. There is a very, very wide body of research that's already been done that identifies that whole spectrum of cognitive decline as being something multifactorial, right? It's a complex disease. There isn't any one thing that leads people to develop mild cognitive impairment and then eventually dementia. And the world of research that's out there, there's thousands upon thousands of papers, lots and lots of books, and obviously there are lots of practitioners, providers, doctors, whatever terms appropriate. They recognize that the cognitive decline and eventual development of dementia isn't something that happens in a week. It's a 15, 20-year process where multiple treatable causes over time eventually lead to an individual becoming symptomatic. And frankly, by the time an individual is symptomatic, it's a bit late. Neurodegeneration has progressed to a point where the brain is no longer able to adapt to that level of neurodegeneration. So it's become extremely, extremely important to identify these treatable causes, catch them early, ideally in patients that are pre-symptomatic, and be able to address them simultaneously. So the knowledge to do so is already out there. But the reality is that it simply doesn't get practiced in the clinic. Patients simply don't receive the care that they need so that the treatable causes can be addressed. On this chart, I just show some of the treatable causes that we look at UMethod, and I'll take you through what we do here at UMethod. But we look at significantly more causes than this, and we exist to help the patients get the necessary care for all of their treatable causes simultaneously. I have a little bit of data from the work that we've been doing to share with the audience. We've at UMethod, as a US-based company, we have had an opportunity to work with a very large number of patients, and we look at the data on real individuals, patients that are going through the various stages of cognitive decline, and what their world looks like from this lens of multiple treatable causes. So almost 90% of the patients, and we're on average talking about patients that are 76 years of age, 90% of them have 3 or more chronic diseases simultaneously. This is a US population statement, although we don't see a reason why this wouldn't extend to other Western societies and even some of the Asian countries with heavy populations that are becoming very Westernized in terms of the diet and their lifestyle. The chronic disease epidemic is a core underlier of eventual development of cognitive decline. The second piece here that's very interesting for us is the number of medications these patients are on. And again, this is US data. On average, we see these patients are taking almost 10 medications and supplements simultaneously. This is with a standard deviation of 18. The highest number we have seen is a patient that was taking 82 different medications and supplements every day. It's really mind-boggling what goes out there. And as you can imagine, these medications, there are many of them, they impart an anticholinergic cognitive burden. They can negatively impact cognitive function. And in a lot of cases, these medications may negatively impact one individual's cognitive function and not another's. So among this patient population, we see 3/4 of them. Again, 76-year-olds within the US, 3/4 of them that are taking one or more medications that impart an anticholinergic cognitive burden. Among the treatable causes, half of the patients have a dozen or more simultaneously active treatable causes of cognitive decline. And this is some of the information that I shared on the previous chart. Just think about that, right? You're a 76-year-old, 85-year-old, and you've got many complex diseases, a dozen treatable causes. What kind of a care are you going to receive from your doctor? Does the doctor have the time to look at an individual patient deeply enough and go and identify and then treat simultaneously these treatable causes? They don't. So even the research that's out there, it simply doesn't get applied to these patients. And that's what we're working to address at UMethod. Lavinia, you touched on this very early on. The research is out there. There is, in the clinical practice, the data we've seen is that on average, the research that actually gets applied to patients is on average 17 years old. So the world of the finger study as an example, is any doctor is it being widely applied in clinical practice? The answer is frankly no. The papers that get published in journals like Lancet, do they ever get to the primary care doctors? Do they read them? Do they understand them? Do they actually know how to treat their patients as a result? Again, the answer is no. And the knowledge is out there. It needs to get to the physicians. It needs to be enabled in an effective manner so that the doctors are able to apply it to large populations of patients. And that's where UMethod comes in. So a little bit more data on the US patient population. So when we look at the patient populations of 65 years of age or older, and when we look at the incidence rates of both mild cognitive impairment and the various forms of dementia, there are about 17.5 million people that are 65 and older in the US that are somewhere on that spectrum of cognitive decline, whether they have mild cognitive impairment or some form of dementia. And across that entire set of spectrum, there is a significant underdiagnosis problem, particularly in the mild cognitive impairment space. Right, and as we begin to get some of these monoclonal antibodies that are specifically targeting the mild cognitive impairment space is becoming a significant challenge for us and the industry to catch these patients earlier and earlier. And then the second challenge on top of that is then how do you actually get the physicians to broadly assess these patients and then actually address their treatable causes simultaneously? So, physicians, particularly the geriatricians, the primary care providers in the US that largely care for patients with cognitive decline, they simply don't have the skills and they simply don't have the skills and time to appropriately treat the patients and all of their treatable causes. So that results in a significant gap in care. You have patient after patient after patient that goes to their doctors, doesn't get tested for cognitive decline. Those that actually get tested and actually are diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or some form of dementia, they are never broadly assessed to see which of the treatable causes exist simultaneously. They're never treated for those treatable causes. And as a result, a patient with dementia ends up costing the government, the healthcare systems, 3 to 5 times as much as one without. And within the US, we're spending over $200 billion a year on patients that eventually develop dementia. So the right step as an industry, as a society, as governments, as payers, as patients, what we need to do, and caregivers, what we need to do is to catch the patients early, identify those that are at risk of cognitive decline, and those that are in the early stages, and be able to, at a broad scale, across the patient population, across the country, across the 130,000 doctors that care for these patients with cognitive decline, be able to identify those treatable causes then and address them in a systematic manner. So at UMethod, what we've done is we've developed an AI-based platform that enables the doctors to do so. We call it assistive AI. Think of it as a platform that does the brunt of the medical and legal and analysis on patient data on behalf of the doctor. And our system that ultimately does two things. One, it identifies the treatable causes that exist in that particular patient. And second, it then creates a care plan that very crisply provides the next steps to take with this patient. And a care plan would include everything from additional diagnostics to run, medications to add, medications to stop, medications to change, what their supplements and nutritional gaps that they must address, what their lifestyle and diet should look like. And all of those various interventions have to be applied to a patient in a very personalized manner based on the specific set of treatable causes that exist that are driving their cognitive decline. So this is what we do at UMethod. We process patient data, we apply the medical knowledge, we apply the research, and we deliver care plans to physicians. And this is available nationwide here in the US at this point in time. So our platform, it's very unique. It's well more than 1 million lines of code at this point in time. This has been in development for several years. And the platform is designed to address a very diverse set of medical information on patients. We're processing everything from lab test results. We look at hundreds of different lab tests, vitals, medications. We talked about the pervasive use of medications on these patients. We broadly assess their comorbidities because many of them are drivers, causes of cognitive decline. We look at patients' genetics. We're even looking at patients' lifestyle and diet. And all of that information is then processed by our platform to create care plans that are then utilized by doctors across the country to improve the care of their patients who are in the various stages of cognitive decline. It's a very unique platform. It's patented. We've already received 2 patents on it. 2 more are pending, and we're continuing to file more patents as we move forward. I'll touch on one brief aspect of it, of the platform that's not very tied to cognitive decline, in that this is a platform for chronic diseases. So as a company, we'll be expanding to address and improve care of other chronic diseases as well. So the platform, the way it gets applied to patients that are going through cognitive decline, the actual product is built around a panel of blood tests. So the panel of blood tests is available through leading laboratories within the US. So companies such as Quest Diagnostics, Bath Group, and several other laboratories have this panel inside their ordering system. And the panel is designed to do 2 things. It's first helps us identify the treatable causes that are active in this particular patient. And the second thing it does is it gives our system additional information on the patient so that we can create a valid care plan for that particular patient. So our system is entirely data-driven as a result. We take the results of this panel and we combine them with the rest of the information that's available inside the electronic health record or the electronic medical records that are available on that patient. That's where we get the information on the patient's medications, comorbidities, demographic vitals. So we end up with thousands of data points on a given patient that then drive a personalized care plan for them. So the way it works in the clinic is the doctor still has to do a diagnosis on a patient, but doing the analysis and receiving a care plan for a patient, we've made it as simple as ordering a lab test. So doctors across the US today, once they have diagnosed a patient with mild cognitive impairment or some form of dementia, they inform the patient that the patient is going to go through a UMethod process and order the particular lab test on that patient. The blood, we are a technology company. The blood actually goes to our laboratory partners. but we receive the information on that patient, the lab test results, all of that goes into our system and creates the necessary care plans that then get delivered to the doctor, so that the doctor in a follow-up appointment, within the typical 20 minutes that they would spend with that patient, are able to take our care plan, discuss it with the patient, and then change the patient's interventions so that, again, all of their treatable causes can be addressed simultaneously. So this just became available nationwide around the middle of the year, and is available to the vast majority of the doctors located in the country today. And the way we've designed the whole process is it's and this is a nuance of the system in the US, in that everybody expects their healthcare to be paid for by somebody else. So we've designed the entire process so that it's paid for by the various health insurance companies in the US. So there's typically no out-of-pocket cost for a user. The care plans that are produced by the system, they are very detailed. So there's a lot of medical knowledge inside these care plans, everything from identifying the treatable causes that are active in the patient, to examining the medications at a great level of details, full reconciliation, and what to do for the patient next. We identify other medical conditions that we found on this particular patient, likely conditions. In about 58% of our patients, we find chronic kidney disease, but only 13% of them were diagnosed with it. So we're helping close the diagnosis gaps as well. And then the system ultimately provides specific treatment guidance to the physicians. These are very prescriptive in terms of medications to add or change, doses, frequency that the patient should take them on. And there's a patient version of the care plan that the patient and the caregiver take home with them, so that they have in writing what their care plan looks like, what they need to do, and when. That helps patients who are going through cognitive decline actually adhere to their care plan as well. Our offering is called RestoreU. Our mission is to provide hope based on an evidence-based treatment for patients who are going through the various stages of cognitive decline. Again, the product is available across the nation at this point in time, and we're working to rapidly ramp up the usage. For more information, please reach out to us at info@UMethoD.com. And of course, you're welcome to visit RestoreU.com, where we can provide quite a bit more information on our technology and capabilities and how to access and utilize the product today.
Well, thank you. That's fantastic. And just to understand, so the UMethod, it's a plan for doctors for informed diagnosis. And basically, it requires the doctor to have a first encounter with the patient and make a general diagnosis, and then you match basically the biomarker, the blood biomarker that you order with the diagnosis of the doctors, which becomes an informed diagnosis with a projection, correct?
So I'll tweak a little bit what you said there, Lavinia, and I'll expand on it. So first, we don't do diagnosis.
Right.
Diagnosis is the domain of the physician.
Okay.
We are entirely in the business of providing guidance on what to do next with that for that particular patient in a very personalized manner. So our real focus is on clarifying which treatable causes exist, and as a result, what intervention should be changed, what intervention should be applied to that patient. So we are, from a regulatory perspective, a decision support software that's providing information to doctors who then use it to decide the care. So you can imagine, I'll take you through a scenario. Bill Gates, a well-known guy, and Bill Gates has been very open with the fact that his father developed Alzheimer's disease. Bill Gates also has all the possible resources that an individual could want. So if Bill Gates ever developed symptoms or wanted to address his risks, he could go to large institutions like Mayo Clinic. Their teams of doctors would look at his genetics, his blood tests, and it might cost him $30,000, $50,000, but he would ultimately walk away from there with a personalized plan for what he should be doing, including everything his prescription, supplements, lifestyle, diet, to address his treatable causes. So folks with significant resources like Bill Gates would be able to get the correct level of care today. The challenge is there are 17.5 million people in the US who need the same level of care. They cannot all go to the Mayo Clinic. But for physicians who are utilizing UMethod, they're able to provide the same level of analysis and care to patients within their clinic and be able to do so within the practical constraints of how medicine is practiced and at scale. So we're bringing that level of care. We're democratizing the cognitive care that the very well-resourced people can receive and making it available to every patient that's going through cognitive decline today.
And this is possible just by matching the first cognitive analysis done at the doctors, at the neurologist, with the blood test that you prescribe.
That's right, and as well as the rest of the information on the patient. So we're looking at all of their medications, their medical history, allergies, immunizations. So we have, as a part of our platform, a full engine that's completely automating the analysis that a team of doctors at the Mayo Clinic might perform for Bill Gates.
Okay, so it's also some existing medical records that can be or may not be available, and of course this there will be compensation if there's this data is not available, I guess.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's really innovative, because the root cause analysis is, I mean, we talk about diagnostics that determine one condition, but of course we completely are ignorant or oblivious of the root cause, or what is causing the condition.
And that's the ultimate goal of our system, is to get to the root causes and help get those addressed in a practical manner.
And you were saying that kidney conditions are frequent in those subjects who have cognitive disability. Correct.
So among the thousands of patients that we've seen, about 58% of our patients actually are in some stage of chronic kidney disease. And chronic kidney disease is one of the contributors of cognitive decline.
Yeah.
We find that it is very underdiagnosed. So among our patient population, only 13% of them are diagnosed, but when they actually go through our process, we find that 58% of them have chronic kidney disease, and they're in the various stages of it.
Okay. And do you see them, do you have the records of those individuals who then maybe address their kidney disease condition, whether there is a reversal?
So the answer is yes. So the way our process works is the patient will get an updated care plan every 6 months.
Okay.
So this is not a one-time event. The patients will come back and go through an updated biomarker, blood tests, and we'll redo the analysis. They'll get an updated care plan where the doctor will get to see everything that's changed over time, and the doctor will also get an updated set of intervention recommendations to apply to the patient as the next step. And that includes everything from interventions that have to be changed and stopped, and others that may need to be added. We have patients that have gone through as many as 13 revisions of the care plan over time.
Okay. Great. Nikki, I saw you put your hand.
Thank you, Lavinia. Hi, Vik. Great presentation and fantastic concept. I just had a thought, so when it comes to sort of upstream drivers, things that can be adjusted at a very personalized level, like what you're discussing. Do you find there's any resistance among practicing clinicians to accept that some of these things are indeed modifiable or upstream? Because one of the things, of course, our group's focus is on how infections or infectious diseases could indeed initiate or accelerate or even perhaps cause Alzheimer's and other dementias for certain people. But the interesting thing is that, none of these sort of upstream plausible drivers have made their way into a very prominent public light. Does that make sense? So do you find there's any resistance among clinicians to actually take action on some of these upstream, very plausible things that you're obviously leveraging with your technology?
So Nikki, I think that's a fantastic question, and I think let's touch on the basis of why that problem even occurs. Right, we live in a reductionist medical system. Right, here's how our medical system works. We'll take a class of symptoms, we'll give it a name, and then we will test molecules against that particular disease. And it works great for a class of diseases. The health lifespans at this point in time compared to 100 years ago show that. But where it fails is in complex diseases that have multiple underlying causes. All the chronic diseases that consume as much as 80-90% of the healthcare spending here in the US are complex diseases. So we're doing a poor job at them with caring for patients with complex diseases, and physicians recognize that. Now, do we think that 100% of the physicians are ready to look at complex diseases as multifactorials and address them in that manner? The answer is no. But what we find is that when we're able to provide a physician with the necessary data and the necessary references, they are very open to providing the best care possible for their patients. And look, there will forever be physicians that are happy prescribing Aricept and Namenda to their patients and moving on to the next patient. But over time, as our methodologies like ours become more easily available and accessible, and when as we've already achieved, look, Quest Diagnostics is the #1 laboratory in the nation. Our program is available through Quest Diagnostics. They serve 50% of the patients across the country today. So as other institutions and organizations jump on board, and as the word begins to spread through the various folks that are on this call and others, it's going to be a process. There's a lot of inertia in the industry, but it's going to be a process, and we'll eventually get to the point where we go from 10% of the physicians that are very comfortable doing this today to 80% of the physicians that'll expect to do this as the norm. Notice I stopped at 80% because I think there'll always be some that
Sure. Thanks, Vik.
never get beyond what they learned in a book or what ChatGPT told them.
I don't know if there was any other question, but thank you so much. This is fantastic. I think that it's really revolutionary. We talk a lot about precision medicine. That never happens, but I think this is the beginning of a long story.
Very much so. We're fortunate to be working on this, and it's a long journey. But this is the path we're on, and our mission is to go help millions of people across the world. We're not just a U.S. limited product. We're working to bring it across to other parts of the world right now, and this is a personal mission for us.
Yeah.
Everybody on my team has a personal connection to this disease. So it's not just a business. We're working here. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Vik, and we'll talk later.